Alright, well, I'm at my mom's house in Connecticut here. That's why the decor is much nicer, huh? The clock in the background, which might go off while I'm talking, so just an apology in advance for that. And it's a little nicer, there's no leaves taped to the wall here. It's a little more, yeah, she lives a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more elegant than my sparse accommodations. So the book I do want to talk about today, though, is Prior Convictions and Other Life Sentences by Richard Pryor, his autobiography that he wrote with the help of Todd Gold. It's right here. Take a look at it. Prior Convictions. It's a play on words to my foreign friends there who might not have understood that. And this book is great. It's really funny, and he's a really funny person, obviously, one of the greatest comedians that ever came out of the United States. It starts in Peoria, Illinois, when he's just a little boy, and he talks about growing up out there, all the way through his life, all the way to the end, basically, almost to the end. Yeah, well, he obviously couldn't write after he died, but he gets into a lot of it, and it's a pretty quick read because you just want to know what happens next to the guy. You want to hear more and more about his life. It's so entertaining. He lived a wild life, man. It's like he almost never sat down and just relaxed. He was always on the go. I admire that. I really like it a lot. I really enjoyed this book, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody. And so I'm going to jump right into it here and hop to page 117. Where he's moved to Berkeley, California. He's done a few stand-up specials already. He's pretty famous, he's very famous, and he's traveled around the country. He's doing his thing. Now he's in Berkeley, California, kind of seeing a new part of the country for what it is. Right in the middle here. Among my discoveries in Berkeley was an extremely passionate, highly charged, super sophisticated renaissance of black intellectual, artistic, and political activity. It was fueled by the minds and fervor of stars like activist Angela Davis, and novelist Ishmael Reed, who were smart, proud, committed, and uncompromisingly black. The bunch I knew could also party their ass off. Cecil Brown, who wrote the novel The Life and Loves of Mr. Jive-Ass, told some of the earthiest, most entertaining stories ever around 3 a.m. Through Cecil, I met Claude Brown, the author of Man-Child in the Promised Land, and Ishmael Reed, who impressed me as one of the most honest people I've met. By comparison, I was uneducated and ignorant. Though listening to their ideas inspired me just as Malcolm X's writings had. I wanted to do something. One night I served as the disc jockey on a radio station, playing Miles Davis and rambling on about Nixon, the Vietnam War, the Black Panthers and shit. I didn't know anything about that shit, but who better to talk about it? Then I got the idea I could write. For a time I holed up in my house and wrote, fueled by coke, coffee, cigarettes, and alcohol. I cranked out page after page of stories containing ideas and opinions that I thought were important. I'm a serious motherfucker, I told myself. Finally, I got the guts to show my work to Reed. He sent it back with the note, "Man, this ain't my language." Well, that stopped my attempt at serious writing cold. He could have said, "Motherfucker, you can't write." But he made it hard. He was cold, and as I said, honest. I heard that Shelley's a ex-wife of his. I heard that Shelley was hanging out with Miles Davis. I don't think they were lovers, but just that they were spending time together messed me up. Women get their heart broke, they cry. Men don't do that. Men hold it in like it don't hurt. They walk around and then get hit by trucks. Did he see that truck? Man, he wouldn't have seen a 747. His heart was broke. I was so pissed off about Shelley and Miles that I walked into a pawn shop, bought a trumpet, and blew it on a street corner outside an Italian restaurant. Only I didn't know how to play the trumpet. Not a fucking note. but I blew the motherfucker as if the shrill discordant sounds that went screaming into the darkness would let everyone know how unhappy I felt inside. Then Bill Cosby, of all people, walked out of the restaurant to see who was playing such shit. He had to have figured it was someone real avant-garde or a terrorist. He looked stunned to see me. "Man, what are you doing?" he asked. "Playing the trumpet." "No, you aren't," he said. "You're making everybody in the restaurant sick." Bill invited me to join him inside, where he was eating with two of the tallest, prettiest white women I'd ever seen. I thought, damn, wouldn't you know? But after a while, one of those Amazon beauties gently stroked my leg underneath the table. I looked across the table at Bill and said to myself, sick my ass, man, that trumpet shit worked. Berkeley was full of characters worse than me, and I seemed to get tangled up with all of them. I hung out with a coke dealer named Hollywood who lived by the water in Sausalito. He once gave me a samurai sword. "Here, man, cut off your head," he said encouragingly. "Do the honorable thing." I also remember Gina. There it goes. Sorry about that. I also remember Gina, this hippie chick whose entire self-worth centered around a pair of satin shoes Janis Joplin had given her. One night in a fit of downright cruelty, I threw those shoes into the bay. Sweet Jesus was a pimp who controlled everything, and I still shudder at the thought of Crazy Mary, a whore who had wooden teeth. I made a grave error with her once. I gave her money. In her eyes, that made us something. "Where is he?" she screamed in a voice that ripped through even the noisiest nightclubs. "Where the hell is my Richard?" One time she barged into the bathroom while I was inside doing my business. I kicked the door shut. She pushed it open. Again with her shoulder. I smashed it shut again and told her to get the fuck away. "Open the goddamn door right now," she yelled. "No." "Why not? You just shitting. Everybody shits." Crazy Mary scared me. She wanted to fuck me up as much as she wanted to fuck me. Finally, I went to Sweet Jesus and told him about my situation. He promised to help, and from then on, Crazy Mary with the wooden teeth didn't bother me anymore. She didn't bother anyone. The really scary people like Huey Newton didn't bother me. Huey and I met at a party in Oakland and then did cocaine in my hotel room. As we got high, the Black Panther's Minister of Defense got angry because his woman was coming on to me and I didn't tell her to stop. The scene got very tense. It seemed certain something was going to happen. Either Huey was going to lose control and hurt me, or I was going to provoke him into hurting me by saying something stupid. Both seemed likely. We were talking about jail. He admitted to being worried about going to prison himself. "Why you scared of jail?" I asked. "'Cause if I go, everyone's going to want to fuck me," he said. I didn't disagree. "But if they put their dick in my mouth," he added, "I'm going to bite it off." "That's a plan," I said, "but right before you bite, you know, you're going to taste that dick in your mouth and wonder whether or not you like it." Huey Newton shot up from his seat and punched me. The blow caught me on the side of the head. "Fuck you." It could have been messy. Both of us were high, we had guns, and we were out of our minds. Fortunately, I decided my best move was to watch as Huey grabbed his woman and marched out of my room. I knew that I could stir up more shit on stage than in a revolution. I could be a revolutionary, but I like white women. I have a white women disease. One night when I was snorting cocaine in Haywood's house in Sausalito, I met Casey de la Vega, a stewardess who I referred to as the Contessa for both her beauty and the sound of her last name. She fell in love with my sense of helplessness, treating me as if I were a doll or something. She cooked for me, dressed me, and even tried giving me her Porsche. A few months later, she followed me back to LA. There was no single reason I left Berkeley and returned home. By the end of 1970, I just felt full. I knew it was time to go back and resume my career as Richard Pryor, comedian. For the first time in my life, I had a sense of Richard Pryor, the person. I understood myself. I knew what I stood for. I knew what I thought. I knew what I had to do. I had to go back and tell the truth. The truth. People can't always handle it, But I know that if you tell the truth, it's going to be funny. And then he goes on to talk about going on tour, putting out another special, and then eventually taking the time to go back and visit Africa, where he said, damn, you know something about Africa? There ain't no N-words in Africa. All these proud black people, this is where humanity began. And this is where black people came from. And in the end of it all, this is where white people and every other color came from. So really, we're all the same, brothers and sisters. And everything else is just division and money and shit, you know? And then he said he had a revelation in Africa where he didn't want to use the N-word ever again. Which is crazy because he says it quite a bit in this book, and he used to use it in his stand-up all the time. But he said he had a revelation in Africa and it changed his mind, and he didn't ever want to use that word again. And it kind of, for my foreign friends that watch this, I should explain, in the United States, there's two N-words, neither of which can be used by anything but black Americans. No other race is really allowed to. Other races kind of get away with it sometimes, but white people certainly not. So there's N-I-G-G-A, which is what they use all the time with each other. Black people say it in hip-hop on tons of songs. They say it in media, on podcasts. They say it to each other when you're hanging out with them all the time. It's off limits, you can't say it, but you'll hear it all the time. And then the other is N-I-G-G-E-R. That is the very horrible, detrimental, historically terrible word that was used to denigrate black people for a very long time in the United States. And they don't appreciate even when they say that to each other. That is a different word. That's not a word that's acceptable at all. Tupac explained it really well in an interview, if you ever want to find that. But Richard came back and he said, I'm not saying any of those words anymore. And the community that he was surrounding himself with and his fan base actually got mad at him and felt that they were abandoning him and he wasn't being real to the street anymore. And he just said he wanted to do a different thing and change his life and do what's right. It's similar to what Malcolm X did after he got back from the Hajj, which is the religious pilgrimage of the Islamic religion. Remember, Malcolm X was a black Muslim from the United States who made the Hajj into Mecca and Medina and saw Muslims of all shapes and sizes, all color, all creed, all people, all Muslims, and he realized that racism wasn't really where it was at, and before he became a true Muslim and went to make the Hajj, he had a belief that the races in the United States should be segregated, and when he came back, he completely changed his mind on that, and said that the white and the black people should live together and learn how to live in harmony. And Richard did he always felt harmony with all people, but he never wanted to use that word again. And soon after he made that decision, he got really into smoking crack. And he talks about that all the way up to the point where he's so high, he douses himself with alcohol and lights himself on fire. And he talks about that too. It's a really interesting book. The book's called Pryor Convictions, Richard Pryor. Definitely recommend it. Check it out if you're looking for something to read. It's pretty good. It's got a lot of slang. There'll be some slang you don't understand if you're foreign. There's some stuff I didn't really even understand because it's old slang, but it's definitely worth the read. All right.